Hey guys, welcome and ting and ting and ting. And today we're going back to Ireland. Yes, that's what I'm saying thing. And here we're going to talk about five amazing women from Irish history. Yeah, I'm looking out for the women and ting now, you know what I mean? Seeing what they have done, because a lot of the history is about men and wars and stuff like that. And not a whole lot of in-depth stuff about women. So, I decided to look for something specifically about women from each country. Did some a little bit on Romania, and now we're on Ireland here. You understand? We said, let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer and see what they're saying about women in history in Ireland.
Of International Women's Day, one of my favourite days of the year, I'm going to be telling you about five incredible women from history. But specifically, I'm going to be telling you about Irish women. You know, it is the Irish Readathon, so I thought I would celebrate some fantastic Irish women. And these are all women who are included in this book, Rocking the System by Siobhan Parkinson.
Yeah.
This is published by Little Island, who are one of my favourite Irish publishers. There are so many incredible women included in this book, and I wish I had the time to tell you about every single one of them, but I have just picked five stories in particular that really, really struck me. And the first incredible Irish woman I would like to tell you about is Queen Maeve, and she was the Queen of Connacht, which is a province in Ireland. It is like the west of Ireland, so places like Galway and Sligo. She was Queen of Connacht around the 1st century BC. Maeve was the daughter of the High King of Ireland, and she had five sisters, but she was really known as being the fiercest of the siblings. When her father went on to conquer Connacht, he appointed her queen there. This put her in a really powerful position, and men from around various other kingdoms came to her in order to try and win her hand in marriage, but Maeve was having none of it. According to this book, she would only marry a man whose wedding present to her would to never be mean, jealous, or cowardly. I don't know many men that can achieve that, to be honest.
What?
Eventually, she settles down with this guy called Ailill. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But eventually, they ended up getting into an argument about like who was wealthier. So they had like all of their possessions counted, and it turned out they were entirely equal, apart from this white bull. So while the white bull belonged to Maeve, he had gone and joined her husband's herd because he didn't want to be led by a woman, because apparently even animals are sexist. But Maeve found out about this brown bull who was stronger, and she was like, I gotta have that brown bull. But like the people that owned the bull were like, no, you can't have him. And she was like, yes, I will. So she trekked up to Ulster, which is like the north of Ireland, and she was gonna damn well get this bull. And the warriors of Ulster were in a huge amount of trouble here because they were all confined to their beds because they were in dreadful pain. They had forced a noble woman named Macha to run a race while she was heavily pregnant. And because of that, she put a curse on them to experience the pain of childbirth. So there was like this rule in combat where each side of the army could send out a champion to fight on behalf of the army. In Ulster, there was one warrior who wasn't affected. His name was Cuchulainn, and he's a very famous figure from Irish legend. And no matter how many people Maeve sent out day after day, Cuchulainn always defeated them. Now, Maeve eventually did lose this battle, and she is more of a mythological figure than a historical figure. But I think it's just an incredible story to learn about and see what kind of power, both intellectually and physically and politically, that women held in early Ireland. And I just find the story of Queen Maeve really inspirational. Next historical figure I want to talk about is...
It's funny how even back in those times, and it seems like it happened a lot in medieval times period. If a woman was powerful, then she was a witch. Now these days, if a woman is powerful, they switch the letter W to the word B to describe her. She can't just be another human being doing a tough job and doing a good job at it too. She always has to be, like something on towards in order to maintain that. But then again, when you really think about it, for a man to have any kind of power, he has to have some measure of untowardness, for lack of a better way of putting it, in him. You know what I mean? If you're nice, people just seem to think you're weak. He's too nice. He can't do that. And I'm not saying there isn't any nice leaders out there. There probably was tons of them, and the nice leaders probably had nice, uh, relatively peaceful societies. You know, the problem with that is everybody would think he's weak. So then the other tribes will come in and say, "Oh, you know, I'm tougher than you, and I'm going to take this out of the tribes or the countries and stuff like that." But see, back then, a woman in power, she's got to have some kind of witchcraft going on or something. You know what I mean? You know, these days, a woman in power, she's a B word. You know what I mean? And I hear it all the time. It's like, even at work, this one manager was coming, right? And she was a young lady. I don't know. She might be mid 30s or mid 20s, late 30s, and everybody's like, "She's a B, she's a B, she's a B." And the woman come there, and the woman was like the nicest person I know. I think she was nice to me. The other women had an issue with her. And it had nothing to do with the way she looked or nothing like that. She was just a pleasant person. She was always smiling. Yeah, I could talk to her. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's just a stereotype that people put on women. And back then, that was it. No, it's different. Let's keep going.
Anna Parnell, who lived between the years 1852 and 1911. Now, why her story in particular struck me was because I knew loads about her brother, Charles Stewart Parnell. I studied history at secondary school and I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved learning about Irish history and all the political history. And as I said, I knew a huge amount about Anna's brother, Charles. But I didn't even know he had a sister. In Ireland at this time, there was a huge amount of inequality between landlords and those that were renting the land, sort of peasant farmers. And the Parnell family as a whole really fought for the rights of these people. All nationalists, which means that they believed that Ireland should be independent and not part of Britain. Anna travelled around a lot, which meant she absorbed a wealth of different experiences. And while she received no formal education, it was said of her that she knew every book that they had in the house. And she did eventually go on to study art at the Royal Academy. Now at this time, women couldn't even vote, never mind stand for election by themselves. But when something called the Land League was set up in order to carry on fighting for the rights of those who were renting the land, a number of the male activists in this organisation were arrested and imprisoned. There was then something called the Ladies' Land League set up, which sort of carried on the fight while these men were in prison, but they also did so much more than that. And in many ways, they were so much better run and functioned so much better than just the Land League. Now, when Charles Stewart Parnell, Anna's brother, was released from his imprisonment in Kilmainham Jail, which is a place that you can still go and visit in Dublin, he decided to dissolve the Ladies' Land League, despite all of their hard work and dedication. I think that's a disgraceful decision. And I find myself feeling really disappointed in my education system for not telling me this story. You know, I learned so much about Charles Stewart Parnell. You know, you can just refer to him as Parnell and people know that's who you mean. There's no debate over whether you mean Anna or Charles. That's probably the story in this book that struck me the most because I just found it so disgraceful that I didn't know who Anna Parnell was. The next prominent Irish woman I would like to tell you about is Constance Markievicz, who lived from 1868 to 1927. Constance Markievicz is fairly well known. I think she's definitely well known in Ireland. But she has this kind of weird reputation for just being like this kind of wacky woman when she was so much more than that. She was the first ever female MP, but she decided not to take her seat because that is something that the political party that she was part of decided to do in order to, you know, protest against British rule. Despite Constance being part of the landed gentry, her family were very aware of social issues. Again, they were very firm nationalists, and Constance Markievicz was very much involved with setting up the Fíine. They were sort of like a nationalist Boy Scouts, and she took them on a lot of trips. She took them camping to kind of teach them what sort of skills she had in that. Markievicz joined the Irish Citizens Army, which were set up predominantly to fight for workers' rights in the time of the 1913 lockout, which was basically like a huge workers' strike in Dublin. She also fought in the 1916 Rising, which is another huge event in Irish history. She was imprisoned after this. Many of her male counterparts were killed, and she thought there was a huge amount of misogyny in her kind of getting off lightly, I guess. But she did go on to do a number of great things. In the 1918 election, it was the first time that women were allowed to vote and run for election, and as I said, she was the first female elected MP. She also went on to fight in the War of Independence and the Irish Civil War. I think she's just like a really prominent badass figure that people have a lot of misconceptions about, and I would love if, again, like Anna Parnell, her history was properly taught to people instead of this distorted, eccentric figure. Next figure I want to talk about.
See, on the island we had our female figures, you know what I mean, and we know who they were. And I guess it's because the island is so small, you know what I mean. The first female premier, Hilda Bino, I think it was her name. Then during the revolution we had Jackie Creff, you know what I mean. She was a minister in the government. Let me think. And I hate to say a lesser degree because she became a diplomat. 1970, Jennifer Hostin won the Miss World competition, but that was back then when that stuff had more prestige to it, where a lot of the women went on to go to the university and then actually did something. I'm not so sure what they do right now. Most of them want to go to Hollywood and stuff like that. Now, something she mentioned in there that she came from a prominent family, but they were aware of social issues. It used to be that prominent families always was sort of interested in social issues. It's like, you know, I don't know if it was religious or if it was just humanity, but a lot of rich people, and I'm speaking from my island, they would like do stuff to help poor people. Even recently, there was a village that didn't have proper roads there. A rich man spent his own money and built roads for the village, put in new roads and stuff for the village. There was a guy that was he didn't have a job, and he's standing at this intersection where there was a lot of accidents, and he would direct traffic, and he would just do it because he wasn't working anywhere, he wasn't getting paid for it. Rich man comes along and said, hey, this should be a job. Boom, set up a salary for that dude, you know what I mean? So it used to be that rich people would pay attention to stuff like that. Nowadays, boy, they just want to get richer and richer and richer, and any kind of charity work they do, it's a tax haven. It's a tax haven or an image builder. You know what I mean? Anytime a rich man does anything here where I am, it may be different where you are. I ask, why is he doing it? What does he want? You know what I mean? Because goodness of the heart ain't got nothing to do with it, with all the tax havens they get, and and the bolster of the image for doing what they're doing instead of just doing it to be done. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to point that out there. Let's keep going.
About comes from more contemporary history, and that is Mary Robinson, who was born in 1944. Mary Robinson was the first female Irish head of state, so she was the president. The president in Ireland doesn't have the same level of political power as, say, the American president does. It's more of a representative role, I guess, kind of similar to a monarch, but elected. Mary Robinson is so impressive. She was appointed a professor of law at Trinity College Dublin when she was only 25 years old. She was someone who very publicly criticized the church. And in the 1970s, there was this real surge of feminism in Ireland, and she was a huge part of that. She's a lawyer and a senator, and she really used those roles to enact social and political change. She played a huge role in contraception being legalized in Ireland. She played a huge role in the decriminalisation of homosexuality in Ireland. In 1989, she was nominated by the Labour Party to run for the Irish presidency. Up until that point, all presidents of Ireland had been kind of like right-wing men. She, of course, won the presidential election, and she did a number of phenomenal things during her time as president. She played a huge role in easing tensions between Great Britain and Ireland, and also easing tensions between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. She was the first head of state to visit Somalia after the Civil War, and the first head of state to visit Rwanda following the terrible genocide that occurred there. When her presidency came to an end, she was appointed High Commissioner for Human Rights by the United Nations, and she did a huge amount of work in that role as well. When that role came to an end, she went on to continue her work enacting social change, but she also does a lot of work with climate change now, which is obviously a really important thing at the moment. It always has been an important thing, but it seems like people are already waking up to it now. Mary Robinson was followed in 1997 by another female Irish president, Mary McAleese, and I feel a huge amount of privilege in that I grew up in an Ireland that had such prominent female figures. I was born in 1995, so obviously I don't really remember Mary Robinson being president, but I remember the work that she's done afterwards, and I definitely remember the work done by Mary McAleese, and I feel really honoured that that was the upbringing that I had, that I always saw these really powerful female figures that could do anything and enact the kind of change that I want to see in the world. Final figure from...
Now, here's something she mentioned, feminism. My opinion, don't chop my head off for it, but I think it's evolved into something that a lot of people don't really get. And so it's easy for them to demonize it now. Because a lot of these women running around out here, and I'm not, oh God, I'm not going to get it. But anyway, where I am, everybody wants to be a bad bee. I'm a bad bee, and I don't need this, and I don't need that, and they call that feminism. But I don't think my mom's type of feminism was like that. My mom worked her whole life, worked herself up to where she was. You know what I mean? So yeah, I was raised by a mom, and she was like a feminist, and. It's about equality, not about power. But it seems like everybody wants power anymore. And that goes for almost every group that's been disenfranchised. They say they want equality, but what they really want is power. Well, some of them, not all of them. What they really want is power. You know what I'm saying? And when they get that power, then they start exerting that power on others. And I'm not saying that's what happened with feminism, but it's kind of seeming that way to a certain degree. I think the whole thing about I don't need no man, and I think that's dangerous for the community as a whole, because people need people. Guys need guys, women need women, men need women, vice versa. Everybody needs everybody. And people are always like, well, there's a difference between wanting and needing. No, in order for us to survive, we need each other. And I'm going to use the word need. We need each other in order to survive. No man, my mom always used to say, no man is an island unto himself. And hearing a lot of that going on, no, I don't need no man, I don't need no man. But the same women who are saying that, they have like 6 or 7 guys that are their friends who fill in the role of a man in their life. So it doesn't make any sense. Stop saying you don't need somebody when human beings need human beings, period. And a lot of the women that say that stuff say they're feminists. And I really think that it's more of a social club than a movement to enact change anymore. But then again, I live in a selfish society, so it's come more self-involved than in community involved. And I think the original idea of feminism was community involved. You know what I'm saying? Especially at the time when men really started to act stupid. I was running around acting like if they could act and do whatever they want. You know what I mean? And rule over everybody, including and especially women to a certain degree. I don't know. Comment down below and tell me what you think of that. Hit me up down below.
Irish history that I want to talk to you about is Sonia OSullivan, who was born in 1969. Now, if you've been around this channel a bit, you know that I also really, really love sport. Although how much do I really talk about how much I love sport on this channel? I'm not sure it's all that much. But Sonia OSullivan is one of the most successful Irish athletes in all history. I'm just going to read you out a list of her achievements because there are so many. So she won 3 World Championship gold medals and 3 European Championship gold medals for middle distance running, has got so many more accolades other than that as well. She didn't really have a huge amount of Olympic success for various circumstances. You know, the timing of the Olympics was really bad for her. She suffered from a lot of illnesses and setbacks around the times of the Olympics. But she did win a silver medal in the Sydney Games in 2000. I think something that's really important to remember there is that she gave birth to her first daughter in July 1999. This gave her just over a year to prepare for the Olympics, and she won a silver medal. She gave birth to her second daughter in 2001, so she's carried on her athletic career throughout both of those pregnancies, and I just find that absolutely phenomenal. And that kind of dedication and drive is something that it seems like she always had, you know, even from her childhood. She wasn't really going out to like discos with her mates. She always wanted to go to training every single day. Recent research has suggested that a lot of the opponents that beat Sonia OSullivan in the Olympics may have been involved in doping, so they may have been taking performance-enhancing drugs. Obviously, there's no way to know whether Sonia would have beaten those runners if they hadn't been taking those kinds of drugs. She was never involved in any kind of doping scandal. But I think it just makes her look all the more impressive, really. O'Sullivan hasn't lost her love for running, and she is often in charge of the Irish Olympic team. She commentates on a lot of athletics for RTE, which is Ireland's national broadcaster, and she also has a regular column in the Irish Times. So she's still very much involved with sport, and I just find her so inspirational. And again, she was a woman who I was very aware of growing up, and I think that's something that really instilled a lot of confidence in me as a child, you know, having this real prominence and visibility of incredible Irish women. That just, I'm really glad I had that. So yeah, they are 5 fearless and amazing Irish women who made history. And as I said, there are so many more incredible women in this book, including a lot of literary figures, writers, poets.
I'm gonna have to check this book out.
Interested in. I would really recommend this book if you are interested in learning more about Irish history. I thought this book was phenomenal, and while it's aimed at young adults, I still got so much out of this book. I thought it was absolutely incredible. I think this is going to be a book that I return to quite a lot. If you don't know anything about the Irish Readathon, I will leave all the information linked down below in the description if you want to find out more about it. It's not too late to join in. If you are participating, I would love to know how you're getting on with your reading, whether you're just reading one book.
Okay, man, that was quite interesting there. Just a little taste. I'm gonna have to get this book to read more about that, you know what I mean? I want to, all aspects of a country's history is what I'm interested in, you know what I mean? Like, I've done mine, I've read as much as I can about mine, you know what I mean? So yeah, my own history. But I hope you guys enjoyed this with me, you know what I mean? If you did, subscribe, hit the notification button so you know when I take out videos. Sometimes I even drop 2 videos in one day. Sometimes I get a while here, you know, and drop 2 videos in one day, you know what I mean? So, hey, hit the notification button so you know when I put out a video. Also, man, drop a like on the video, share the video, and comment down below. Tell me more Irish women you know that wasn't mentioned here, because she said there's a plethora of them. Of course there is. There's always a plethora of female activists and stuff in countries that doesn't get the recognition that they deserve. Comment down below and thing. In the meantime, man, you know what I mean? I'll leave a link for this video in the description, so you could go check it out and thing, and you could probably check out this channel because she seemed to do a lot of history stuff on there, and you know, vibe up and thing. In the meantime, take care of each other, all right? Cool runnings.